Hello students, today we are going to learn something about informal letter writing. So, what is an informal letter? An informal letter is also known as a friendly letter. It is a personal letter written to whom you are familiar with, like friends, siblings, parents, relatives or any other closed one. And so it is written in personal fashion. It can be used for reasons like conveying message, news, giving advice, congratulate recipient, request information, asking questions, etc. While writing an informal letter, one can afford to be friendly and make use of personal or emotional tone. So what makes it different from formal letters? You see, formal letter is written for business or professional purposes with a specific objective in mind. It uses simple language which is easy to read and interpret. On the contrary, informal letters are written to friends and relatives for personal communication and require a casual or an emotional tone. The size of a formal letter should be concise, that does not include irrelevant matter. In contrast, the informal letter can be lengthier. Formal letters are used for writing letters to business or official contacts, that is, partners, suppliers, customers, clients, college or institute, employer, professional, etc. As against this, we write informal letters to friends, relatives, acquaintances, etc. Moving on towards the formatting of the letter, we can say that there is no set format when writing an informal letter. But there is a general pattern, some conventions that people usually follow. We will be looking at this pattern and certain tips on how to write effective and attractive informal letters. These can act as guidelines when you are drafting a letter. They are not hard and fast rules. So, let's begin. First thing to write is your address. That is the address of the writer or the sender. We usually write the address on the right hand side of the page at the very top. The address should be accurate and complete. Even when writing to close friends or relatives, the address must be written so they can reply back to the letter with ease. If the recipient of the letter is in another country, don't forget to write your country as well in the address. Next, just below the address, we write the date. This allows the reader to have a reference as to when the informal letter was written. He can then relate better to the contents of the letter. The date, preferably, should be in expanded form. After the date, now comes the greetings or salutation. Since you know the person you are writing to, the greeting can be informal as well. If it is a friend or someone close to your age, you can greet them by their first name like Dear Alex. If you are writing to your relatives like your mother, father, aunt, uncle, etc., you may greet them as such. For example, Dear Mom. And if you're writing to an elder person, someone you greatly respect, you can address them as Mr. or Mrs. And now, in the introductory paragraph, we begin writing the actual letter. The introductory paragraph sets the tone for the whole letter. You might begin by asking the recipient about their well-being, or you may say that you hope the letter finds them in good health and great spirits. The opening of informal letters should be casual and comforting. It must not be formal and direct as in business letters. After that comes the body of the letter. The letter overall should maintain a friendly tone, but you have to adjust the language and the wordings according to who you are writing to. With a friend, you can afford to be very casual, but if you are writing to an elderly relative, you must be extremely respectful and considerate. One way to determine the tonality of your letter is to remember how you talk to the person in a conversation, and then apply the same syntax and sentiments to the letter itself. In the conclusive paragraph, sum up the reason for writing the letter, that is, summarize the letter. So, say a meaningful and affectionate goodbye to the reader, and don't forget to invite the reader to write back or reply to your letter. It shows an intention to keep the conversation going. Lastly comes the signature. There is no one way to sign off informal letters, since they do not follow a strict format. You may sign off as you please. These are some commonly used phrases followed by a comma. Pick the one that best suits the occasion and then simply write your name below the greeting, both on the right side of the page. Let us do a quick review. So we know that our letter begins with the sender's address on the top right hand side of the page, followed by the date in preferably the extended format. Then moving on to the left hand side of the page, we write the salutation or the greeting and actually begin our letter with the introductory paragraph which sets the tone for the whole letter. Next comes the body of the letter, which may have more than one paragraphs. Afterwards, we conclude our letter by summarizing it and saying a meaningful and affectionate goodbye to the reader. And then we move again towards the right hand side of the page in order to close our letter and write our signature followed by a comma and our name just below it, both on the right hand side of the page. And now, are you ready for some practice? Write a letter to your friend about your routine during the pandemic when the schools have been closed. Good luck!